Good morning, my friends, and welcome to another video here on That Anxious Teacher. Today, I have a special treat for you. So first, let me explain. I am in my second year of teaching, but this is my first year teaching in the classroom. My first year of teaching, I was a Title I teacher, which meant that I worked a lot with data, and I pulled students from different grade levels to meet with me in small groups focused specifically on phonics, phonemic awareness, and reading instruction. So it was a very unique first year of teaching. I really was able to develop a lot of my small group skills and learn how to work with data as a teacher. So it was really valuable. But this is my first year actually in the classroom. Classroom teaching is very different from small group teaching. And I have experienced a massive learning curve this year. I have made lots of mistakes. I have been very intentional and reflective about my decisions, and I have learned so much. So I am so excited to share with you the 7 best decisions that I made in my first year of teaching and the 7 worst decisions I made in my first year of teaching. And hopefully, whether you're a new teacher or a veteran teacher or not even a teacher at all, this can provide you with some insights on things that you could do in your classroom or just what goes on in a classroom. So let's get started. Okay, so we are going to start with number 7 on the list of the worst decisions that I made in my first year in the classroom. Number 7 is envelopes and name tags taped to desks. So let me just show you. I had envelopes taped to all of my students' desks at the beginning of the year as a place to keep their punch cards, which is the reward system that I chose at the beginning of the year. And this is the condition that they are in at this point. So as you can see, they are completely destroyed. I have some kids whose are still somewhat intact. I have some students who theirs is gone. It's just disappeared. And then some that are demolished like this. Half the kids are now keeping their punch cards in their pencil boxes because they can't use their envelope anymore. So I also had them color coded based on the tables that I had them set up with at the beginning of the year. I did not realize how much I would be moving desks. And so the color coding attached to the desks was super difficult because then when I had to move seats, I tried using colored tape to put over the top, and eventually I just stopped. I told them to ignore the colors altogether because they no longer matched their seating assignment. And then I'll cover up the name here, but the name tags that I used looked great because they're self-adhesive and they have all of these really great, little anchor charts and great information, but they are going to be a task to get off of the desks at the end of the year. I am not excited. So some of my students are completely unreadable. I can't refer to them anymore in class because some of my students have destroyed that portion of their name tag. For next year, I think what I'll be doing is just using wet erase marker to write names on the tops of desks and just keep the tops of desks as clean and free from adhesives and tape and paper as much as I possibly can. As cute as it was not useful and has come in 7th place on the list of worst decisions that I made in my first year in the classroom. Coming in 6th place on my list of worst decisions that I made in my first year in the classroom is my punch card reward system. So at first it seemed like a really great idea. I wanted to have a token economy in my classroom because it seemed effective and it seemed almost easier that I wouldn't have to figure out a reward to give students each time. I would just be able to punch their card and they could save up for rewards. Unfortunately, throughout the course of the year, it changed from an immediate positive reinforcement to a once a day check off if they got their morning work done. This is because it is incredibly inconvenient to try and have kids keep their punch cards on them at all time, and for me to stop lessons and pull out a card and punch their card, or pull out my hole punch and punch their card, it just became inconvenient and didn't really work. So now they only get punches every day if they complete their morning work. which is fine. It's motivating for their morning work, but it is not an all-day reward system. So instead of using punch cards or money or other tokens, I have decided that next year I will be using Class Dojo. I'm excited to use Class Dojo because the feedback, it's immediate. They lose a point, they gain a point, they'll understand what that means. I'm able to log it on the computer, and their parents can be checking it throughout the day. So it's a way to combine parent communication and positive reinforcement, as well as behavior management. So I'm excited to be replacing that system next year because these are also not cheap and I run through them quickly. So it might work in other classrooms. There are wonderful, amazing teachers who are able to make token economies work, but in my classroom, the next step for me is going to be trying Class Dojo. Coming in 5th place on the list of worst decisions I made in my first year in the classroom is my pencil system. So I figured that if I had 2 jars, one for dull, one for sharp, and a pencil sharpener, that the kids could run the pencils all on their own and it would be off my plate, something I didn't have to worry about. What I did not anticipate is how much students love a freshly sharpened pencil. So even though I limited pencil sharpening to one class job that was done at the end of each day, kids were running through the sharp pencils so fast. Their pencil would get slightly dull, and then they'd either lose that pencil, they'd forget to put it in the dull, and it would just stay in their desk, or they would destroy it, and they would just go get another sharp one. This quickly led to us running out of pencils every single day. And my pencil sharpener would come up to me at the end of the day and say, there are no pencils to sharpen. So that was a problem. So what I ended up having to do is we continue to use these jars, except not really the sharp one. When they have a dull pencil, they have to show it to me. I have to inspect it and say, no, you can still use that, or go ahead and throw that away, or go ahead and go put it in the dull bin. Then I keep the pencils in a fanny pack that's attached to me so that I can monitor pencil usage. It's helped us slow down our use of pencils, and it's been a really great system so far. It's added to my plate, so I've had to be in charge of pencils and getting them sharpened because in addition to this, my pencil sharpener that I purchased for my classroom is not great and breaks the lead every time. Luckily, we've got like an industrial sharpener in the teacher lounge. So I gather up the pencils at the end of the day, take them down there, sharpen them, put them in my fanny pack so that they're ready for the next day. It's not a perfect system, and I haven't come up with a new way that I'd like to do it next year. So I'm still brainstorming about that. And if you have any suggestions or ideas on how you take care of pencil usage in your classroom, please drop them in the comments below because I could really use some input on this one. Okay, so before I start number 4 on the worst decisions I made in my first year in the classroom, I just need to explain, I look a little less fresh because between the last clip and this clip was a whole day of teaching. Sorry, that was a half laugh, half cough. Okay, the 4th worst decision that I made during my first year in the classroom is my bathroom system. So I'm not going to show it to you because it has all the student names on it, but essentially it's a list of all of their names with 3 boxes next to each name. This part is the part that's okay. They can go to the bathroom up to 3 times during the day, and any squares that they don't end up marking off, so any bathroom uses that they don't use, is how many entries they get in a drawing at the end of the week for a prize. Sounds pretty good. But I did not limit when they could go to the bathroom to certain times. So a lot of times, right when I'm starting a lesson is when a lot of kids choose to use one of their bathroom passes. So next year, I'm still trying to work it out, but I think I'll be doing something similar, except there will only be certain times when they can use their bathroom pass. And I think I'm going to use physical passes. Comment below if you have used physical passes and whether they've worked or not worked, because I'm still trying to decide if I want to do that as well. I don't want to make it too complicated, but I really don't want them to be raising their hand and asking to go to the bathroom. That's what I want to avoid, because I feel like that really disrupts a lesson when you're asking questions or having a discussion and then someone raises their hand and asks to go to the bathroom. So let me know what's worked for you in your class, but so far this system has not worked because they're going to the bathroom at inconvenient times. The third worst decision that I have made in my first year in the classroom is our end of day routine. So the routine itself, the things they need to get done is fine. They know to get their lunchbox, to get their backpack, to put their computer away, to get their mail, and then to come sit on the carpet until I ask them to go line up. But I did not, from the beginning of the year, specify in what order that needed to happen. And so our end of day is pretty chaotic most days. I've gotten a little better about like monitoring kids when they go into the hall. We have a general order that we do things, but I still have a lot of kids occasionally forget their lunchbox, definitely forget to get their mail out of their mailbox because I didn't have like a prescribed order that they were supposed to do things. Next year, from day one, we are going to be practicing an orderly and non-chaotic way to accomplish all of those things rather than it just being a free-for-all. So it's just going to be a little more structured, more quiet, higher expectations, more specific expectations for our end of day routine. The second worst decision that I made in my first year in the classroom is not explicitly teaching my students their expectations with paper. So the kids have flown through their notebooks like crazy. Like I think most kids' notebooks were filled up by the middle of the year. I've had to use just like these little brown notebooks that the school secretary found to help supplement, and then also just loose leaf paper. So next year, what I want to do is be very specific about what they are allowed to use their notebooks for. It's not for doodling, not for writing notes to friends, not for cutting and making crafts. It's only for specific assignments. And I think by making that more explicit, our notebooks will last us through the year. All right, drum roll please. The number one worst decision that I made in my first year in the classroom is this. I went through all of the math materials and divided them evenly between 24 buckets for my 24 students. Sounded like a great idea at the beginning of the year. They would have all of their math materials they needed right there in their desk. No, it's a terrible idea. Unless, well, actually, backpedaling. Comment below if you have done this and if you found a way to make it successful. But let me tell you why it didn't work in my classroom. I have students that will pull it out when it's not appropriate and play with the things in their desk when it's not time to. I have students that will mess around with things in there, that will sneak materials home. They've spilled them on the floor and then things get thrown away. Some of my students will pick out things, draw on them, cut them, chew on them, and then those get destroyed. I've lost so many materials from these math bins because students have had direct access to them all year. It did not give me an ample opportunity to teach them how to properly use each tool and why they have it. So next year, I will not be distributing their math materials in these buckets. I will be keeping all the math materials. I will pre-teach them what the expectations are with each math material, pass them out for the activity, and then collect them when the activity is over and keep them with me. And I think by doing that, our math materials and manipulatives will be so much more effective and used so much more appropriately, and they won't get destroyed or become a distraction to my students. So that was the number one worst mistake I made this year. Okay, now that we have finished talking about the worst mistakes that I made in my first year in the classroom, let me tell you about the best decisions that I made this year. The seventh best decision that I made this year was having a classroom reset routine for myself during my last 30 minutes of the day. So my students are dismissed at 3:20. Then I stage at a part of the school until the students have gone, so until about 3:30. Then by my contract time, I'm required to stay until 3:50 each day. So what I have done with that time is reset my classroom for the next day. This has saved me on so many occasions. If I am out the next day and need an emergency sub, if I get sick that night, my classroom is ready for the next day. Or if I am running late and show up, just 20 minutes before the kids get there and there was other prep work I needed to do for that day, I don't have to worry about setting up my classroom for the day. It's already done. So this is what I do. Once my students have left and I have returned from my after-school duty, I first go around and I straighten all the desks, make sure they're in the right place, make sure all the chairs are stacked, even though I do have the kids do that part. Then I go through, I pick up any remaining trash on the floor. Any students who are not following directions during our afternoon routine have to pick up trash. So most of it gets picked up, fortunately. But I pick up any extra trash that's on the floor so it's ready for our janitor to vacuum in the morning. Once the floor and the desks look nice, I go around the walls of my room and reset everything that needs to be reset on the walls. So I change the bathroom chart over. I reset our choice time minutes for the next day, make sure our days in school is correct. I set our schedule on my whiteboard for the day. I write down the lunch options for the day tomorrow, move the pink square on our calendar so that it is on the correct day. I change our learning targets so that those match up with our lessons for the next day. And that's about it. And I make sure all of the Chromebooks are plugged in. That makes it so that when I walk into work the next day, my classroom feels clean, fresh, and ready for a new day. And it's awesome. I started doing that day one, and it's a great decision. And I highly recommend it for all of you teachers to, if you have 20, 30 minutes during the last part of the day, don't waste time, doing other things or scrolling your phone. Make sure you reset your classroom for the next day. It will save you so much stress. The sixth best decision that I have made in my first year in the classroom is actually a purchase. It is these little name tag magnets. Okay, so the one downside is that if you write it in dry erase and the kids use it, it gets wiped off. So I ended up putting a sticker on top, like a label, and writing their name on it. And this is what they use when they walk into the classroom each day. One of the first things they need to do is get their magnet from the side where I keep all the magnets and move it over to their lunch choice. So this both helps me do a quick lunch count in the mornings and submit that to the front office, and it helps me take roll because any magnet that wasn't moved from where they start shows me who's absent. So this was an excellent purchase. I will link these magnets in the description box below. They're just off of Amazon. They come in 4 colors. They've got the blue, the yellow and orange, the green, and then there's a red one as well, but I don't have any extras of those that don't have names. So I will link that in the description box below. But if you have to take lunch count and attendance every morning, those magnets are great. My 5th best decision that I've made in my first year in the classroom is also a purchase, and it is this remote from Amazon. I will also be linking this below. This is great. It comes with a little USB, and the USB connects this directly to the computer. It just takes one AAA battery. You just turn it on. You can control the volume of videos on the side. It's a laser pointer, so you can point at things around your room using the laser pointer, and it flips through your slides. I like to walk and talk while I teach, so I love having this remote because it allows me to walk around the room while changing my slides and while pointing at things on those slides using the laser pointer. It's an amazing tool. I definitely use it a lot of the time, every day, so that I don't have to be stuck behind my computer when I'm using slides, which I use a lot of slides. So this will be linked below. It's amazing. I've only had to change the battery once this year, but I am pretty religious about turning it off when I'm not using it, so that helps a lot. But yeah, this is great. The fourth best decision I've made this year is having class jobs. My class jobs have changed a little bit over the course of the year, but they have been amazing. I change them once a week, and they include the following jobs. I have a scout. That child, whoever is the scout that week, gives out an award that our school does for character strong traits. So students in the class that are exhibiting those traits, they give out one of those awards to a student in the class. So that takes something off my plate. I don't have to be watching students for that. The scout does. I also have a librarian that takes our library books down. Our sanitizer sprays desks at the end of the week, and everyone wipes off their desk with paper towels. I have a secretary that helps me pass out papers. My mail person waits until everyone has had a chance to get their mail, and then reminds anyone that forgot to empty their mailbox to go get their mail at the end of the day. I have a weather person that checks the weather, and they change our little weather thing during our morning meeting. I have a magnet mover, and that's the person that resets the magnets at the end of the day. I have a pencil sharpener. They used to have a really important job, but now that I have taken over the pencil thing, that job is kind of in limbo right now. I have a substitute, and that person covers for anyone who has a job that is gone that day. And then I have a lunch bucketeer, and that's my person who picks one friend each day, and they carry the lunch bucket down to the lunchroom. This has been awesome. I'm considering adding door holders and line leaders next year, but my system of having the first people in line hold the door and then get in the back of the line has worked pretty well. So I'm going to finish out the year with that. But yeah, it has been so great, and I've been consistent with it all year. We just change jobs every week, once a week, and my students are really good about getting their jobs done. So that has made our classroom run smoothly. The third best decision that I have made this year is using Planbook. Planbook is awesome. I will link that down below as well. It's an online planner made for teachers. I have used it religiously all year from day one. It's amazing. It has so many features. You can schedule out the different blocks in your day. You can attach files to different lessons, add links. You can just do quick little lesson plans, or you can make it really descriptive. It allows you to shift lessons or move lessons depending on, schedule changes. And they're coming out with even more features next year. So it is awesome. I highly recommend it for all teachers. This is not a sponsored video, but Planbook is fantastic. It's allowed me to stay really organized. I can add to my plans from home or at school. Yeah, I just can't say enough good things about it. It's great. The second best decision that I have made this year is prepping my morning meeting slides over the summer last year. So I have these great morning meeting slides that were inspired by the morning meeting slides of another teacher. They include the date, a quick pass, which is just like a would you rather question that I have my student answer. It used to actually be a quick pass where we'd pass around a talking piece and everyone would give their answer, but that took way too long. So now we just do a vote. And then it also has our character strong trait for the month and a discussion topic. So it'll ask a question or have us read a short passage and discuss it, or we'll look at a picture and analyze how it teaches us more about that character trait. This has allowed me to not have to worry about planning morning meeting content all year, which is fantastic. And it's made it possible for me to cover our character strong traits and have social and emotional learning on a daily basis without fail. Which gets really difficult to do when you get into a certain point in the year and you are just overwhelmed with all the other things on your plate and other expectations you have as a teacher. It's ensured that we are always covering our social and emotional learning, which is so important. So I am just so grateful to myself from last year for preparing all of those slides for me to use all throughout the year this year. And so next year, the calendar changes a little bit, so I will be prepping those slides again over the summer. Luckily, it won't be as much work. I just have to move things around a little bit based on the days of the week and what days we're in school. But I love it. I'm super happy about it. All right, last drum roll. The number one best decision that I made this year as a first year teacher was to schedule my knowledge component of our curriculum. So we have CKLA Amplify, and the knowledge component is like the social studies and science portion of that curriculum. So the best decision I made was scheduling that for right after morning meeting each day. So my kids will show up to school, they'll get settled in for the day, start their morning work. I'll take lunch, count, and roll. Then we'll do our morning meeting after I've checked their work. And then the first content that we touch on each day is that knowledge component. My students, at least this year, have loved knowledge. This is the time when we get to explore interesting social studies topics like Greek mythology and the Civil War and westward expansion, in addition to science topics like different kinds of insects and cycles in nature and things like that. It's just so interesting for them. And they're able to just sit. I let them doodle as long as they're not talking or distracting others. And they listen and ask questions, and we have discussions about these really interesting topics. And it has been an amazing way to get them engaged right from the beginning of the day. I feel like if I had started off the day, at least in my classroom and with my group of students, if I had started off the day with any other topic, they might be a little less engaged. So having that social studies and science topic right at the beginning of the day each day has set a great tone for my students for the rest of the day, has piqued their interest, brought them into the world of school again, prepared their minds for learning for the rest of the day, and it was just a great decision. So there you have it. Those are the 7 worst decisions I made in my first year as a classroom teacher and the 7 best decisions that I made in my first year as a classroom teacher. Please comment below, what are some of the worst decisions you made in your first year of teaching? What are some of the best decisions you've made? What are some things that you've kept doing all throughout your career so far, or things that you have avoided ever since you tried it just because it was so awful? I'd love to hear the differences in different classrooms, different styles of teaching, what things work for you and what things don't. I think it's so important that all of us as new teachers and as veteran teachers discuss these things to give other people ideas and to warn people of strategies that might not be the most effective. Thank you so much for watching this video. And if you like this video, please give it a big thumbs up. Make sure you are subscribed and hit that bell so that you can receive notifications for all of my future videos. Thank you so much for being here, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye, guys.